everyone. My name is Elena Martinez, and I'm one of the artistic directors of the Bronx Music Heritage Center. Welcome to our August percussion discussion, the virtual program that we've been doing since last year that talks and presents all things percussion, drums, and anything about those stories in the Bronx and New York City. So. Again, welcome to our show today for August. You know, this is part of Salsa Fest. The Bronx Tourism Company started Salsa Fest, which they, because we're the Bronx, we're the borough of Salsa, the Condado de Salsa, and so they started Salsa Fest. So our next couple programs coming up, and tonight's program too, are going to be sort of in line with that. We have today with us Bobby Sanabria, the other artistic director, will be interviewing the great Jose Madera. And you'll get to hear about him and hear stories about him, about his career. And also coming up, just so you know, keep posted to this Facebook page, our Facebook page, because you'll see all the things that are coming up. We have a concert in honor of the 75th birthday of Hector Lavoe. That'll be Oreste Abrantes and his group Afinque will be performing in September. And for our next percussion discussion in September, we'll also be interviewing Ronnie Puente. So please make sure you come back and check out those programs as part of the Bronx's Salsa Fest. Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to our funders. The Bronx Music Heritage Center program is supported in part by the National Endowment for the Arts, the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of the New York State Legislature, public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council, the Lily Auchincloss Foundation, the Loriam Tisch Illumination Fund, and the Howard Gilman Foundation. And before we start with the interview tonight, does anyone watching on Facebook? This is a live interview. You have a chance to ask the musicians here tonight any questions. So put any questions you have in the Facebook thread in the comments section, and we'll make sure they get those questions. And Bobby and Jose will answer your questions. So and enjoy tonight's show. And to start that off, here's Bobby Sanabria.
Saludos amigos, como dice el gran Humberto Lasalle. Welcome everyone to Percussion Discussion. It's a special treat for me tonight to have to be able to speak to our revered guest because we've known each other for many, many years. I've had the privilege of sharing the stage with him on several occasions, and he is indeed a legend in his own time. But he comes from a legendary family as well. We'll get into all of that right now. Our guest, Jose Madera, is indeed someone very special. Not only is he a fabulous percussionist on all of the instruments that we know in terms of the battery of percussion instruments in Afro-Cuban based music, the congas, the timbales, and the bongo, but he is also a fantastic arranger. The people that are the secret to the success of any orchestra, no matter what size orchestra it is. It could be a big band, it could be a symphony orchestra with a big band, it could be a small group, etc., etc. It is the arrangers who are the unsung heroes in the music because they provide the written music out for all of the musicians to play, and it is through their mind, their creativity, that they approach the music in a very unique way to bring it to you. And of course, when we're talking about great arrangers, we're talking about the one and only Jose Madera. Welcome, Jose, to Percussion Discussion tonight.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for having me on.
Great, fantastic. We have a common bond as well because we are, I believe you're from the Bronx or born and raised in the Bronx. And we also are fellow Hayesmen. We're talking about Cardinal Hayes, the great high school in the South Bronx, where people like Regis Philbin, George Carlin, and many others went to. So we went at different times, obviously, but we have that common bond. And your brother, Jerry Madera, the great bass player, also went to Cardinal Hayes as a graduate of Cardinal Hayes. We'll get into that a little bit later. But first, tell us where you were born, when you were born, and how you started as in music. Because tell us a little bit as well about your fantastic family lineage in music, the fantastic Madera family dating back all the way to Puerto Rico and its history in music.
Okay, well, I actually wasn't born in the Bronx. I was born in East Harlem, but I lived in the Bronx for quite a few years throughout my history. I was born actually at the New York Hospital, which is now Cornell or something. I don't even know what it's called now. Way back in 1951, and I went to Catholic Grammar School, St. Paul's on 118th between Lexington and Park. For those of you that know the barrio. And way back then, to get into any high school, they used to have the cooperative entrance exam, so we had to take that. And I had put Hayes down as one of my choices, and they accepted me. And so I wound up going to Hayes for 4 years. And I will say, as we went back a couple of years ago, you were kind enough to take me back and go to the school. I will say that the 4 years at Hayes, I had a wonderful time. It was one of the best times of my life. And as far as the music goes, I knew that my dad was a musician because of the sax that was in the house and stuff. And our family, the Madera family, has its roots in Puerto Rico. Obviously, Simón Madera, my grandfather, who wrote La Danza Mis Amores and quite a few things, and was a teacher and a violinist. And of course, his children, Oscar Madera, my uncle, who was a violinist and saxophone player and came to New York actually a year or two before my dad did, and was playing with Noble Sissel. Of course, my dad, who came in 1930 to New York and played with Noble Sissel and Augusto Cohen and Noro and everybody. My aunt Mencia, who is Margot's mother of the Augie and Margot fame. Margot's my cousin, the dancer.
The famous Mambo dance team, yes.
Yeah, she just passed away a year ago, I believe. And then we had Simón, a bass player, who played with Charlie Palmieri and Miguelito Valdez and all that. And then Frank Madera, who was actually an adopted child, but taken in by the family, who had also his own band in Puerto Rico and all of that. So it kind of goes back. I know I'm leaving some of the girls out, Gladys and Angustias and all my aunts and stuff, but that's really the history of the family. And my dad came in 1930 and became one of the first musicians to come to East Harlem from Puerto Rico and play in the theaters and the shows at Teatro Hispano, which used to be on 116 and Fifth Avenue. And he wrote for a lot of people, for Daniel Santo, Vitín Avilés, Augusto Cohen, Noro, a whole bunch. Whoever was back in those days, he was extremely busy. Yayo El Indio, he wrote for a whole bunch of things. And of course, as a kid growing up, I got interested in music. And my mom and dad met at the Palladium. So I'm really a Palladium baby as a result of that. And you know, I was fortunate enough to make a career out of it, because as you know, it's very hard to do that. And I was able to play. Starting out, you know, you play all those little weddings with these little bands in the hood and stuff. You play here, you play there. And then I made it to Machito's band. And then after that, I made it to Tito Puente's band and was there for almost 31 years.
Fantastic. Now, when we're talking about Puerto Rico, what part of Puerto Rico is the Madera family from?
Well, no, the family's from Mayagüez, but my grandfather loved Guayama, so they moved down to Guayama and stuff. And so they were there for the duration of whenever they passed away and stuff.
And Guayama, as we know, is a very famous city because through recent research, we found out that Guayama is the birthplace of the plena, and then it was brought to Ponce, Puerto Rico by Joselino Boom Boom Oppenheimer. But man, that's fantastic. Now, you mentioned a band leader that your father worked for, Augusto Cohen. Many people don't know that Augusto Cohen, who was the child of a Jewish man and a Puerto Rican mother, was a fantastic band leader, and I believe he's credited with having the first Puerto Rican-led Latin big band in New York City. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tell us a little bit about Augusto Cohen. Did you ever get to meet him at all?
No, I never got to meet him. He is of course the late Ray Cohen's dad, the pianist,
right,
and stuff. I never got to meet him though. But I think you are correct when he was the first Latin band, as you mentioned and stuff. And my dad wrote a lot of arrangements for him, reminiscencias, all these things, this danza and all that. And my dad also played with them several times. Whenever he was short a saxophone or something, and my dad could make it. So these people have a tremendous history in the development of what we're still playing today.
Right.
And without them, obviously, we wouldn't be having this interview.
Right,
You know?
exactly. Your father, in terms of his training, did he ever speak to you how or who his first saxophone teachers were, and who did he learn arranging from?
No, he did not ever. I never really asked him that, but he did start years ago. I don't know. This is probably not the case anymore. But the saxophone players would start learning on the clarinet, which is a much more difficult instrument
Right.
to play and stuff. And then they went to the saxophone. His arranging stuff, I guess he learned from his dad. I never really asked him about that, and I'm sorry that I didn't, because I can't answer your question right now.
Right.
But his training was from that, from his father, who was a pretty strict teacher, if you will, with the music and stuff. And everybody that came out of that household, including my Aunt Mencia, who played the piano beautifully, they were brought up and trained in that manner, kind of strict and everything.
Right. Now, in terms of, and I'd like to remind everybody who's viewing right now, within the sound of my voice, please, if you have any questions, you can start typing them in, and we'll ask them to Maestro Madera here. But I'm very curious in terms of, I mean, everybody talks about your arranging skills, but nobody really gives you credit for being the great percussionist that you are. I've seen you playing congas. Obviously, I've seen you playing timbales. I've seen you play maracas, guiro. I've seen you playing bongo. I remember I was at a rehearsal for Louis Ramirez. You were going over a chart that you had written. I believe it was at SIR. You guys were rehearsing. I don't know why I was there, how I happened to be there, but I saw you, and Mike Collazo was playing timbales.
Mm-hmm.
Louis was directing the band. I forgot who was playing congas, but the bongo player didn't show up, and you just sat down and played some beautiful, beautiful bongo and sincero, which is the handbell that we use. That everybody knows that the bongo cero has to play that other part of what we call a bongo cero, the bongo, and then there's sincero, the handbell, in the montuno sections and the vamp sections. How did you start getting into percussion, and were you self-taught, or did you have some mentors, like people like Ubaldo Nieto or others? Did you actually take any lessons on any Afro-Cuban percussion when you were young?
No, I didn't take any lessons. I originally wanted to become a bass player.
Oh, okay.
And stuff. And we didn't have the money to buy. Back then, they had the 3/4 basses, which was smaller. I didn't have the money to. We didn't have the money to learn or to go to any lessons or stuff. So I don't know. I just got interested in percussion and stuff. I mean, I had seen Uba Nieto play from when I was about 6 years old and stuff. And for me, Uba was probably the most swinging big band drummer ever, because he not only accompanied the band, he accompanied the arrangement, which
Right.
is kind of lost today because we all play the same kinds of patterns, and that's where we stay. But he was almost like an American drummer would do, a trap drummer. And of course, he learned how to play drums with Henry Adler, who was at NBC for many years back then.
Drummer, yeah.
A fantastic drummer and stuff. And of course, I had seen Tito Puente the first time in 1959 and stuff. And I had seen Tito Rodriguez. I saw Pat play, and Pat Rodriguez, who passed away also.
With
So I
Tito
kind of
Rodriguez.
got interested in that, and it's kind of hard.
Would you say you were self-taught?
Yeah, well, not self-taught, because I copied everything from everybody else, whoever I could see, and then you try to develop your own style, which
Right,
is the ultimate goal, I guess, for all of us that are in music. You try to develop your own style and your own way to play and your own way to approach an arrangement. What is it that you're adding to the arrangement with your playing? What are you
Right.
bringing to it? And but yeah, and the same with arranging. I kind of if I had questions, I would ask my dad if I got stuck on stuff. But I kind of was self-taught with that. And there's a wonderful book that's about 1,000 years old. It's called The Modern Arranger and Composer, written by trumpet player Russell Garcia, and that's the book that I used. In fact, I still have one. I bought a brand new one the other day because the one I had is it's yellow and green and falling apart because it was my dad's. So I guess he used some of that also.
Right,
So,
right.
the information in that book, and that's really I just snuck my way through the cracks, and here I am.
Now, did you at the time that you were growing up in El Barrio, and then eventually the family, I assume, moved to the Bronx? Uh, did you participate in any street rumbas at the time in El Barrio?
Yeah. Everybody had drums, or we would go up on the roof, and my mother would say, "Don't go up the roof." And of course, that's the first thing that I did
Right.
because we're playing on the roofs, and all that. And yeah, I mean, that's really, I think, where a lot of us got our first exposure. Not a professional exposure, but guys playing, in the street, playing the conga, playing the bell, or a pair of timbales and playing a solo, playing the time on the paila, on the bell and stuff. And of course, later on, I was able to see all these guys, Candido, Patato, Mongo, whoever. I'm sure I'm leaving a lot of people out, but I was able to see them. And so you kind of assimilate some of that, and it gets going in your head, and then you try to somehow produce a sound that's close to what they're doing, and it took forever. I remember we would hear licks on records, and then we would sit at home and try to figure, and this must be the way that they do it, and then we were fortunate enough to sneak into a dance and watch them play. When the conga player or the bongo player would do a lick, it was we had it all wrong. They were doing it a different way. So I was lucky to see that also, and that's really it. Outside of being fortunate enough to record on a lot of records, and fortunate enough to write a lot of arrangements.
Fantastic. Now, do you remember what the first gig you did was, and what instrument did you play?
Well, the first gig I played was on timbales with Catala. You remember the guitar player, and he used to play. He used to do this trick with the guitar and take a chug-a-mug, a Wrangell chug-a-mug bottle, and play it like that. And we're playing in the theater, and the people are applauding, and half of them are booing. And for and for $15, man.
Was the but he
And
had
in New
the
Jersey somewhere.
but
So
did he have the beer mug filled with beer?
No,
Oh.
no.
He was using it like a slide guitar player would use it.
Yeah, like doing these tricks, and half of the people in the theater are applauding, the other ones are booing, "Sáquenlo, bótenlo," all that kind of stuff, all for $15. So
And now,
hasn't changed much either. So there you go.
and how old were you?
I think 14.
Right. And did he call you, or did your father recommend you, or?
No. We had a neighbor, Israel Berrios, that
The guitar player for Arsenio?
Yes, he lived across the hall from us.
Arsenio Rodriguez. Wow.
Yeah. And they needed a timbale player, so he asked my dad, and my dad said okay, and my mom said okay. So I went and I did a few shows with them, and that was really how that came about, And I rode with him in the car to New Jersey, and I'm looking at the New Jersey Turnpike signs, things I've never seen in my life because I haven't been, out of the area. And I was able to play those things, but it was great. It was a great experience,
Do you remember some of the people in the band at the time? Do you remember
No,
who the conguero was?
just 4 people.
Oh.
The bass, Israel, Catala, and myself.
So you had to do everything on the timbales,
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, fantastic. Those are the kind of things that I remember. What's his name? Who was it? The guitar group. What's his name? Sextet. Coño. La Playa Sextet. La Playa
Yeah,
Sextet.
yeah,
And what
sure.
was his name? Jimmy Santiago. Was his name Jimmy Santiago? I believe that he used to play, and sometimes it'd just be him on the timbales with a little bass
Yeah,
drum, and he's doing
yeah,
everything
yeah,
with his left hand and the bell parts. And fantastic! Wow, what
yeah.
a qué introducción.
What an indoctrination. I'm telling
No, but
you.
I'm like cracking up the whole thing about the half the people are applauding, half the people are booing.
Yeah,
So he basically,
son-in-law, mother-in-law, all that, the people whistling,
where
all
where
that
did you
fun
play
stuff.
in a nightclub or a theater?
No, it was a theater. It was a
Wow.
Sunday afternoon theater, and there were 4 shows. You know, not quite as bad as the Apollo, because the Apollo was worse. The Apollo was 120 shows. What was it? Let me see. What, five. I think it was 50 shows or 60 shows at the Apollo for not a very good amount of money. But this was
Right.
on a Sunday afternoon, and it was a theater in New Jersey. I don't remember where, maybe Newark or something,
Hmm.
Catala y su grupo, and we come out, and the people applauding, and he's playing his thing, and he grabs the mug, and he's doing sliding on the mug. The people are clapping, and others are whistling and booing. So
Did you ever get to record with him at all?
no, thank God.
What was the
I never got.
what was the first recording session that you did?
Oh man, wow. I'm not sure. I think it might have been. Let me see. I'm trying to think. It might have been something for Ghetto Records or something way back 1969 or something like that.
Hmm.
You know, uh, might have been an Eddie LeBron thing or a Papo Felix thing, or of course we had the Paul Ortiz thing with the Tender Love song.
Right, right.
But then by that time I had already moved on and was recording, doing things with Machito and of course not too long after that Tito Puente and stuff. So
Right. Well, I wanted to explore Machito, the greatest Latin band in the history of the music, the band that
no
first,
question.
the first, in my opinion, the first band that really codified what we call Afro-Cuban jazz. They fused jazz arranging techniques with Afro-Cuban rhythms in a really incredibly cohesive way. Another contribution of the Machito Orchestra. They were the first band to use conga, bongo, and timbales as a
Yeah,
triumvirate of percussion. They
yeah.
don't get enough credit. Kind of like the dust of time, unfortunately, in our industry wipes away history. But that's why we love doing this and talking to masters like yourself. You were present, you've told me, at the recording session of, in my opinion, and I think you agree with me, the greatest album the Machito Afro Cubans ever did in terms of their representation of Afro-Cuban jazz in a big band setting, the Kenya album that was
Absolutely.
recorded at, I believe, in December of 1958 and released in '59. This was an album that the Machito Orchestra did. It was an all-instrumental album. It featured all these incredible jazz soloists like Curtis Fuller on trombone. Candido was featured on congas as well. Eddie Bird on trombone. Cannonball Adderley on alto saxophone. He was the hottest alto player at the time. He was playing with Miles Davis, and
Yes, it was.
and so because the label was Roulette Records, Morris Levy, the head, was able to get him. And according to
And
Mario
Joe,
Bazar, yeah,
Joe
according to
Newman
Mario
also.
Bazar, what he told me was that Morris Levy went to Mario at Birdland. The band was playing at Birdland. Mario, the musical director, our old boss, and he said to him, "Listen, I want you to record a whole album, just all instrumental Afro-Cuban jazz. I'm sick of Tito Puente getting all the spotlight. You guys are if it wasn't for you guys, there would be no Tito Puente." So, and according to Ray Santos, he spared no expense on
Yeah,
the
no,
album.
no. Well, one thing about Roulette, I could say, or Tico or Alegre, which they bought later on, Roulette never always, I mean, they never owed anybody any money. Everything was legit through the union, 3-hour session, whatever the scale was, overtime, of course, whatever it was, they would pay the doubles. They would pay the arrangements, every whatever it was. That's something that Morris did that was right, you know.
And for
Not
those
to
of you who don't know,
confuse him, but a
Morris
lot of
Levy
yeah,
was the owner of Birdland, and he's represented in The Sopranos as the
yes,
character
I know.
Hesh in The
Yeah, you're not
Sopranos.
kidding.
And supposedly he has the fame of having ripped off musicians in every style of music, from classical, jazz, rock, doo-wop, and of course what we call salsa today. But so you were present at the Kenya session, and you saw these musicians playing this. It was at Metropolitan Studios. I believe it's on 108th Street, I believe, in El
On
Barrio.
6th Street, there was the Oddfellow Temple.
The Outfall
Yeah,
stuff at 106th
yeah.
Street. Tell us, how old were you, and tell us what your impressions were seeing these musicians recording this, what would become this legendary album.
Well, I was 7 years old,
Hmm.
so I was just kind of mesmerized by what was going on and the sound and everything. I said, "Wow, this is unbelievable," you know. And that's really, I think, what really got me headed in the musical way, direction and stuff, and saving up the quarters and the pennies from the allowance to go to the record store, go to La Sultana and buy the records on 116th Street, where they had the booths where you could try the records out and the 78s, and half of the people would steal the records. They walk out of the store, and that whole that whole thing. So, but that's what really got me headed that way. Uh, it was, needless to say, from what I can remember, it was a spectacular session. I think when Verve reissuing that
Right, right,
did such a spectacular job, because when you listen to it, it's kind of a dry sound and it makes you feel that you're right in the studio with them,
right.
listening to this thing and stuff. Yeah, and in my opinion, I think that's the greatest Latin jazz record ever done.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I mean, and
and your
Albert Atkinson, who changed his name Muslim to A.K. Salim, wrote a lot of those other jazz things.
right.
You know, and of course he was a trombone player with Count Basie for many years and stuff, and he got recruited to write a lot of that album. You know, so
And your father was part of the sax section,
yes, he was.
along
Yes, he
with
was.
I believe that's the album also where Mario Balzar, he stopped playing trumpet and just went devoted himself to the alto saxophone.
Well,
Uh,
actually, what happened was, did he tell you that?
he basically said that, but correct him if he's wrong.
He's wrong. He don't know what the hell he's talking about. He needs to drink. Mario used to drink Calvert and stuff and Four Roses. You throw that stuff on the wall and the paint comes off. You know. So, what happened was, after Bob McAuliffe left, Fidel Fernandez came.
Okay.
A Dominican saxophone player. He's one of the best, in my opinion, that led that section. He was really good, Fidel, and then he left to go with Tito Puente, and then he went to Tito Rodriguez and stuff. So in 1961, Machito went to California. They had no lead alto, so Mario decided to play alto saxophone. And they went to California with 3 saxes and 2 trumpets. And they picked up people over there and did the Crescendo album, The World's Greatest Latin Band, with Jimmy Zito and Johnny Odino from The Tonight Show in those years and stuff. And Aaron Sachs came along for the ride and stuff. And so this is what happened. That's how we started playing alto, because they kept running out of alto players
Right, right.
that could do the job, because that's that section, that sax section I put up against Basie or Duke Ellington sax section, everything. They were true tone players. They didn't play the notes, they sang them. It
Now,
was
can you
so
explain what you
good.
mean by true tone to the audience viewing right now?
Well, the actual, not the sound that stays near the mouthpiece and trickles down to the bell of the horn. The sound of the entire horn, as the air's being blown through it and getting that sound. My dad and Jonikins, in the recordings, Leslie Jonikins, who was the baritone sax player, they were always sat back another 2 feet from the microphones. because of the sound that they had, while the other guys were playing in right like today, right up into the microphones and stuff. But that was that sound. I spoke about this with the late Ray Santos, and Ray agreed. He said that was probably one of the greatest sax sections that he had ever heard in his life. And we used to talk a lot about this, whenever we were together and stuff. And of course, Ray Santos came in, and he came in on alto and stuff because Jumbo was still there. So the Machito sax section in 1958, 59, 60 is Ray Santos, Fidel Fernandez, Jumbo, my dad, and Jonathan. That was the sax section and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Jomo got fired because he got drunk and was on the stage like flying like a bird, and Mario fired him.
Right.
So
We're talking about Jose Chombo Silva for those
yes.
for our viewers who may not know who he is. Another legend. He became very well known with the Alegre All Stars through those recordings.
Absolutely.
Man,
Great
so
guy.
you were present at that session. I mean, do you remember if like they did a lot of takes on the tunes, or just maybe one or two takes and that was it?
Well, I know they didn't rehearse it.
Oh, okay. So they rehearsed in the studio. They just
right. And when like we do in the studio, there might be a couple of wrong notes on the copy parts or a wrong note here or there, so that was corrected, and then they would play them.
Right.
I don't really know how many times they would play them, but because I don't remember that. But the fact that they didn't rehearse this,
Mm-hmm.
it was nothing short of amazing to play that type of music, because you did the Kenya retrospective yourself,
Right.
and you know what's involved with all of that music, But it was really a remarkable thing,
What were your impressions of Cannonball Adderley, the legendary saxophonist? He was the next in line after Charlie Parker. You're a 7-year-old kid. You're watching this guy who became a legend, but he was in his early salad days. And then, what did you think of him? Were you blown away by him?
No, because I didn't know enough yet.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that everything sounded really good and stuff. And this, of course, is before, then he went on and did, then his brother Nat wrote Work Song, and then he went on and did the hit Mercy and all that stuff,
Right,
so,
right. Well, we're going to go, so we've covered a little bit of your early career. You're playing with the Machito Afro-Cubans or the Machito Orchestra while you're in high school. And I'm pretty sure it was you. I was 12 years old. You guys played an outdoor concert along with the Tito Puente Orchestra and Ricardo Rey and Bobby Cruz on East 153rd Street in Cortland Avenue, right in front of the Melrose Projects, where I grew up, 681. I remember
that's where Candido lived, the timbali player, Candido.
Right.
Lived
That's
in
right.
those projects. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew him. We see him all the time, and also, well, we're talking about Candido Rodriguez, who played with Ricardo Rey and Bobby Cruz, and his wife used to do my mother's hair. So
yeah, Ramona.
Ramona, yes. So that's the first time I ever saw peroxide hair for the first time. And he had two twin boys that I guess were learning how to play with him, and he used to come. When we used to rumbear in the park, they used to come up by like little brats and go, "My father could kick your ass on conga bongo and timbales any day of the week,"
There we go.
And we'd say, "We know," but also Caco, Francisco Basta, the great timbalero band leader and timbalero with the Alegre Osos, lived in those projects too. So I used to play basketball with his nephews and stickball. But getting back to you, I saw you play there with Tito Puente. It was just amazing seeing you, and that concert changed my life because it was a street concert. It was like a little mini Woodstock. And to see those bands just live, I tell my students, you don't understand. You could see the videos and this and that, but you have to see the band live. Stand in front of the band, see them live, so you can feel the power of the band. And you guys were just rocking the house, playing Para los Rumberos. It was a life-changing experience for me. That was like said, this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. So I just want to publicly thank you for that. But you're in high school, and you're playing with the Machito Afro-Cubans, this incredible band. how did you get into the band? Did your father recommend you, or
No, they Frankie Colon,
Mhm.
who of course, in my opinion, is one of the unsung heroes behind the scenes of writing many arrangements for people and other people taking credit. We won't talk about that right now. But he had left because he went and did the Roseland gig with Ramon Algueso,
So he was
which
playing timbales with the Machito Orchestra then.
he was. And then they needed somebody for the weekend. So Mario asked my dad if I would like to come and play. And I said, of course, I'd be happy to come. And of course, I knew all the music because I grew up listening, like we would play the records till they were white already. They had no grooves left, So we knew all the breaks, all the music and stuff. So I went and I did it. And I wound up staying for a while. And that's really how that started. He asked my dad if I would like to come and play. And I said, sure. And it was a great experience because I got to play with some of the older guys, that was still there. And that was important.
Did they embrace you, or were they a little bit standoffish at first, or did they embrace you because you were being your father's son?
A lot of them shook my hand and said, "Great," I don't even remember how great it was. It might have been okay. I'm not so sure it was great because that's the first, baptism under fire. Here we go. Mary goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and the band starts, and you're sitting there, and you're like blown away because you could never really capture the essence of a big band on a record, no matter how much you try.
Right.
To really stand in front of it and listen to it. It was really great.
Fantastic. At that time, who were your heroes in terms of percussion? I'm assuming Tito Puente was one of your heroes, as he was to all of us. So
of course, Uba was, Chino Pozo was, Mangual.
Talking about Francisco Pozo, not Chano Pozo, the conga player. We're talking about Francisco Pozo, El Chino, the bongo cero. For those of you,
right? I had seen Peraza play bongos. He was in New York for a while and played a few times with Machito. He was great. Of course, Mangual, Buyu, El Viejo, Johnny's dad, who played excellent. And
now, when you were in the band, who was playing conga and who was playing bongo? When you got in,
the conga player was Julian Cabrera.
Wow.
From Orquesta America fame, and then to Pacheco, and then to
another unsung hero, yeah.
Yes, Julian, yeah. And the bongo player was Henry Rosa,
right?
Who had the same padrino as Tito Puente did, Nilo Tandron. And Nilo was a dancer, and Henry used to pay money for his shows and stuff. And that's whole nother discussion.
And when you're talking about padrino, you're talking about a padrino in Santeria?
Yes, in Santeria. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And then from there, you did you begin on and did you start writing for the band as well? Like, is that when you did your first writing?
My first big arrangements, were there. 1971, maybe. I don't know. Something like that. My first big arrangements were there, and they got recorded later, and the people liked them, and the band started working a little more because Machito back then would maybe play on a Saturday or Sunday, or something like that, and then they started getting a few more gigs here and there during the week. See, Tito Puente played every day, I mean, we worked 9 times in 7 days, a double on Sunday, or a double on a Saturday or something. And it was a constant thing. It kept going and going and going and going. So that was the one thing I could say about that is that Tito Puente, they never owed me a dime. Everything was always paid, And we all know those gigs where we used to go and then, only 20 people come in and the leader says, "Bueno, muchacho, ya ven como salió el baile." You see how the dance came out and no money. Or we'll go do auditions for the Hunts Point Palace for Federico, and at the end, like a local band, trying to make it to the thing. Excuse me. And at the end, no, there's no money. So you go home. Wonderful days.
So how did you start your association after the Machito Afro-Cubans or the Machito Orchestra with Maestro Tito Puente? How did that start?
Well, my mother knew Tito from East Harlem and stuff, and Tito also knew my aunts and of course Margot and my dad. Obviously, my dad played on a lot of those early '78s in the sax section and stuff. And we started going to the office to see if we had any in the collection of trying to collect all his records. He had a ton of records in a closet in his office. So I used to go up there and take them and stuff so I could record them. So I had it all recorded on a 1/2-inch tape. I had a 1/2-inch machine back then, a TIAC, and that with the VU meters and the Dolby and the whole thing. And then there was some kind of show coming up, and Tito said, "Go get bongos and come to work tonight." And that's how it started.
So you started off as a bongocero in the Tito Puente Orchestra.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, I did.
And then finally, when did you switch to congas?
On a trip, well, Madama was the conga player.
Madamo Diaz, yeah. Madamo.
Yeah. And on a trip to California, he said he was going to stay. So we're flying back, and Tito says, I want you to go to Martin Cohen and get a conga drum. And I looked at him, I said, for what? I said, well, we don't have a conga player now. So you move over and play conga. And I said, I told him, play conga. I never played conga in my life. And so Tito, that's all right. You learn here. Learn here. That's how that started.
What a place to learn, man, with the Tito.
Forget it. I had Bengay on my hands for 3 months.
Oh, man.
It was a disaster, man, But, you live and you learn. And I was lucky enough to stay there for a long time.
So you played, in those 3 months, you only played one drum, or did you have two
one
drums?
drum?
Wow.
One drum. I couldn't play one. Forget about two. It was crazy.
And who was the bongo player then? Or did you not use one?
Trying to think.
Because I remember I saw some
We
gigs.
didn't have a bongo player. Well, Junior, Victor Cruz Jr. had left already and stuff. And Johnny had already gone, although Johnny will come back and forth for certain things,
Johnny Rodriguez.
Yeah, Johnny, yeah. But either Mario would play the bell or Santito would play it, or, and there was no bongo player,
So you're talking, I'm just
repeating
these names for the viewers who don't know.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Mario Rivera or
Mario Rivera? Yes.
Who was one of the saxophones? He would play the bell, the large bell, bongo bell, and then Santos along. Yeah, wow.
Santos would play it. Santos played that really good, and he played the Guido really good. Half of my Guido playing is based off of Santos because he had such a good roll on it. He played it really good, and then I think Louis Bauzo came in to play bongos for a while, right. And then after him, I don't remember. After him, this guy by the name of Angel Colon, Papo Colon came and played and stuff, and then Johnny came back and stayed.
Papo's the gentleman that used to play with a pinky ring on his finger, right?
Yes, they used to play for Dominica, the merengue bands and all that, and yeah, he was there, and those guys drove me to drink. That's how bad it was.
Well, we're very fortunate because you provided us with some pictures. Let's look at the first picture, if Jorge could put it up, and see what your thoughts are when you see it. We have some nice photos here.
Okay, well, that is Isidro, left to right. That's Isidro Infante, and he's standing next to Sal Cuevas, who passed away, and of course Mike Oyaso and Nicky Marrero and myself. This is the recording done at the old Latin Sound Studios, which was owned by Raúl Alarcón, the disc jockey for many years on WHOM or Radio Wado. I'm saying the wrong station, pardon me, but he owned it. And this was a Raúl Marrero record.
Mm.
that we were doing there and
And
stuff.
just
And I can remember. I have no idea what the songs were or anything.
and just so the people know, Isidro Infante with the beard is a pianist. Sal Cuevas, may he rest in peace, fantastic bass player. Michael Yasto in the white shirt up front, fantastic drummer and timbalero, and all around percussions. Nicky Marrero, there, fantastic timbalero as well, and bongocero. And yourself. So were you playing congas? Was Nicky
Yes,
playing bongo and Mike was playing timbales? Is that
yes, yes.
fantastic? Let's go to the next slide. All right.
This is the corso, I think.
Mhm.
Uh, left to right is Frankie. We used to call him Frankie Paquete. So I don't know where he is these days. And of course, Roger Dawson is sitting down playing the conga drum.
Mhm.
And of course, I'm looking to get away from having to play anything. So Frankie's playing the bell, and Roger Dawson is playing the conga drum. And I'm playing the guido, and you see Tito, and those are not his timbales, I think. Let me see. They could, because they had that tape around that bell. That could be Tito's timbales, yeah, the LP one. So Tito's playing, and then Frankie Figueroa is singing coro, and of course that's the late Frankie Dante,
Right.
local there from Orquesta Flamboyant.
So Roger Dawson was just sitting in with you guys, I guess.
Yes, he came up to the stage to
Tell
add
us
to
a
the
little.
mayhem.
Tell us a little bit about the Corso Legendary Ballroom, where it was, and its importance. Yeah.
Well, it was on 86th Street between 2nd and 3rd, and Tito Puente. We played there every Wednesday, many years, and stuff. And it was the Wednesday night dance or whatever. The presentation was trying to trying to recreate the Palladium with Marty Arrett and the dancers and stuff and that whole thing. So there was sort of like a dance show like they used to do at the Palladium.
Right.
And back in those days, the Corso had a round stage, like the Hollywood Bowl, if you will, which was around like a round shell. And then they changed it all and stuff. But it was pretty packed, and it ran for a long time, and it was a pretty good place to play and stuff. It was one of the most swinging places for those years, if not the swingingest place to play.
Right. And it basically took the place of the Palladium Ballroom, which had closed on in 1966. For the viewers that don't know, the Palladium lasted from 1948 till 1966 on West 53rd Street and Broadway, and was the home of the Mambo, and the Corso basically took its place. And the Corso, I remember, it had a mirrored ceiling.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
So you couldn't be high and dancing, or you'd fall down.
Right.
People look up at the ceiling and say, "Who's that?" You know.
Let's go to the next photo.
That's Vicentico Valdez, myself, and Tito singing coro. This Tito did Santos. I think this is 1975.
So he's dressed in all white, and
Yes.
you're on the bell, the bongo bell, and that's Santos Colon on the lead.
No, that's Vicentico Valdez.
Oh, Vicentico. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's Vicentico.
Yeah. La voz elástica, as they used to call him.
That's very true. Yeah.
The hardest gig I ever did in my life, just as an aside, was at the Teatro Puerto Rico, backing him up, doing 15 boleros, one after the other. And we were in the rehearsal. He counts off the first one like this. One, two, three, four, and then we start playing, and then he stops. He goes, "No, está muy rápido. It's too fast." Oh, forget it. That's another story. But
That's a nightmare. A nightmare.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here's a fantastic picture. Is this in City Hall, I believe? Or?
I have no idea what that is. I know we're wearing that shirt. We had a lot of shirts for the summer.
Right.
I think that's 19. That's Malamo's drum, because Malamo had moved over to sing when we didn't have a singer. So I'm going to say that's 1975, around there also.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And just again, one drum, just one conga. Wow.
Yes, one drum.
The next slide. Wow, this is the section, man. Tell us about this.
This is at Westgate up in Nyack in Rockland County. And Tito would play there like once a year. Mm-hmm. And when we played there, it was packed and stuff. So that's Tito and myself and Johnny And
Danny Rodriguez, known as El Dandy, many people,
right.
most of us consider him the greatest bongo player living today. You know, so.
Yes, absolutely, without question. Uh, and the album slicks on the front of the bandstand is from Tito's 100th album. So
I
that's
see.
like 1991 or
Right,
92,
right, okay.
something like that.
Next slide, next slide. He's a
That's
beautiful
in
shot.
that's in Pennsylvania. That's the Latin Jazz Ensemble, and I'm going to say this is like 1981, something like that. So you see Johnny, and next to Johnny is Sonny Bravo, and me standing in the back next to Sonny, and to my left is Bobby Rodriguez, and Mary Rivera, and Ray Gonzalez in the corner, and of course Jimmy Frisora, our boss, and Tito.
Tell us, well, Sonny, for those of you viewing, Sonny played piano. Bobby Rodriguez, legendary, incredible bass player. Mario Rivera, legendary, incredible multi-saxophonist and flautist. And Ray Gonzalez, fantastic trumpeter. Tell us a little bit about Jimmy Frizara, legendary figure, doesn't get enough credit for his contributions to the music and to the success of Tito Puente. He was a great trumpeter. Tell us a little bit about him so that our viewers can really learn more and get some insight.
Yes, he
on
was. They all used to play with Pupi Campo, and then they left and they started Tito's band. Jimmy actually ran the band.
Okay.
He took care of everything, hired musicians, was responsible a lot for the phrasing, the percussive ensemble phrasing that the Tito Puente band had. By percussive ensemble writing, I mean, for those viewers that don't know, it's the band actually sounding like drum licks, you know, and that was the Tito Puente sound, and Jimmy was responsible for that, and he took care of everything, you know, and he was really, really an unsung hero of the band. You know, he was everything, anything and everything was Jimmy.
And how would you consider him as a trumpeter? Just because nobody really talks about that. You know?
He was a great trumpet player. He played lead in the beginning on some of the Tito Puente 78s and stuff. And then when they went to the bass trumpets and the valve trombones, where the armature and the mouthpiece is larger to put around the lip and stuff, that ruined some of his chops for playing trumpet and stuff. But for the good of the band, he did that. Him and Pucci Boulon, another trumpet player, unsung hero also, and Hector de Leon Cabeza, who wrote a lot of the La Lupe, a trumpet player who wrote a lot of the La Lupe arrangements after Tito fired her, would play these bass trumpets, which was really an amazing thing because, you know, as you know, bass trumpet is a little bigger than a regular trumpet, and the mouthpiece is bigger, so that kind of messes up your lip and stuff.
Right. I mean, for the viewers, the Tito Puente Orchestra, if they had the budget permitted, when they would record in full big band mode, they would have a trombone section, but many times it would just be 4 saxophones or 3 saxophones live, 4 trumpets, but sometimes the 2 of the trumpet players would double on the bass trumpet, making it sound like trombone, so you get the effect that there's trombones there. So
Right.
even though it's not a trombone, so I could imagine him going, like a professional trumpet player would probably would balk at it and say, "I'm not going to do that. I'm going to mess up my lips." You know.
Yeah, they would switch back and forth, and within the arrangements themselves, you know, there would be a part on the bass trumpet, there'd be another part maybe 24 bars later, a little while later on trumpet, and it was back and forth. And the fact that they were able to do that and maintain a pretty good sound was really remarkable.
Right. And he was a mensch too. Like he was the nicest of guys, and
yes, he was. You wouldn't work for a nicer guy.
Yeah, really miss him.
Yeah.
Tell us about this photo.
This is in Channel 47 in Newark.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Iri Chacon Tito Puente show. This is 1973. And I could name the guys if I could see them. Okay. So starting in the back, on the left side in the saxophone section, that's Roger Rosenberg on baritone. And next to him is Renee McLean, Jackie McLean's son on alto. And then Dick Mesa, Taco, we call him Taco, on the alto. And the tenor player is Bill Saxton.
Wow, who would go on to Mongo Santa Maria's group.
Yes, absolutely. And then the trumpet section is Paulo de Paula. Next to him is Dave Tucker. Next to him is Manuel Santos, and next to Manuel is Jimmy Frizora. And the front, you see Frankie Figueroa with his bowling shoes there, green and white. And in the back, you see Mike Collazo, myself, and Maramo. The bass player is Izzy Feliu, who passed away already. And on the piano was the great Paquito Pastor.
Yeah, Francisco
Paquito. Of course, Pastor. Tito. Yeah.
And this was during the time period where Tito was making the full transition, becoming a full initiate in Santeria, hence he's dressed completely in white. Now, one thing I always wanted to ask you, I never got to ask Tito. I asked him once and he just made a joke about it, but the Tito Puente big band arrangements, the original arrangements, when he would record for RCA, he would have 4 trumpets, he would have 4 trombones, but he would only have 4 saxophones. And I wanted to know why, because the full saxophone section is 2 altos, 2 tenor saxophones, and a bari. Why did he do that? Like
he said that his favorite band leader was Stan Kenton, his favorite band. So he said one time that he saw Stan Kenton with 4 saxes and stuff. So that became his sound. He didn't want 5, you know. And this is something that he said many, many years ago. I'm sure there's plenty of videos around where you see Stan Kenton with 5 saxes, but maybe at the time that Tito saw them, because Tito was around, Harlem, and before he became who he became, he'd go to jazz clubs and see all these bands and stuff. And so he probably saw them one night with 4 saxes, and so it became that. And originally his 4 saxes were an alto and 2 tenors and a baritone.
Right.
Then he changed it to 2 altos, a tenor, and a baritone.
Right.
So I don't know why he did that. I personally like the alto and the 2 tenors and the baritone.
Right.
But he changed it to the other way.
Well, it's a good thing he didn't see Stan Kenton later on with the 2 baritone saxophones, 3 tenor saxophones, a bass sax, and 1 alto. Wow. Let's go to the next slide.
This is Europe somewhere. I don't know where though. That's Getty Images. Wow. Be careful, we're going to get sued now.
So that's you, Tito. Yeah.
And that's Tito. I don't know where that is. But, Ray Gonzalez is still there. So I'm going to say maybe 1984, something like that. I think.
Okay, next slide.
That's us at the Mombo Legends at Orchard Beach.
Now, the Mombo Legends, it was called correct me if I'm wrong. It was originally called the Latin Giants of Jazz.
Yes, it was.
And then the orchestra's name was changed. Was it just shortened to the Latin Giants or something like that? Or
yeah, because there was a problem with the person that owned the name, and there was a legal issue, and so the band's name was changed.
So explain a little bit of that to our viewers. What it means owning the name of the band. Tell us a little bit about that, just for the
when you own something, you copyright it, and without permission, nobody can use the name. If you invent a product, let's say like this like a pencil sharpener, and it has your name, it has a special thing, and you get a patent and you copyright it, nobody else can take that sharpener and say that they made it and stuff. So he owned the name of the band, and so we couldn't use it without his permission. So, and he wasn't really the owner of the name. He wasn't really doing anything for the band. So we went out and did this to change the name.
Right. To the Mombo Legends Orchestra. Fantastic.
Right.
So that was I'm assuming that was at Orchard Beach.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next slide. Yeah.
That's Old Timers Day with David Rosado Cuba from Puerto Rico.
From Puerto Rico, another fantastic percussionist.
Yeah,
next slide.
Wonderful.
All right.
That's the last Eddie Palmieri Me Luz Mayor CD, and I'm working with Eddie there in the studio with the piano part, and then of course conducting the band. Go and being here. My nephew, my not my nephew, my grandson. Sorry.
How
Yeah,
many
we're
of how
working
many
on.
how many of the arrangements did you write for this project?
I only did two, but I conducted the band and helped Eddie with some of the things that he wanted to do. And then some of the voicings that he didn't like, so we changed some of the voicings on some of the arrangements. And yeah, that's a few years ago now.
And he's still going strong, I believe, at
Oh
the
yeah,
age of 84.
oh yeah.
Yeah, he's a fantastic
That's
shot.
the 50th birthday of Latin percussion out at the NAMM show
Hmm.
in Anaheim. There's the late Raul Recao on the left, myself, Johnny, Martin Cohen, Jimmy Delgado, and I forgot this guy's name.
Richie
Richie
Gajate
Gajate.
Garcia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Richie Gajate, right.
Gajate Garcia, yeah. Next slide.
Willie Rosario.
Yeah, Mr. Afinque, yes.
Yeah. That's in Puerto Rico. At a show that was a tribute to Tito Puente done at the Ponce baseball field, Ponce Stadium, and stuff, and they were all around.
For those of you who are new to the music, Willie Rosario, tremendous timbala player. He's not really known as a soloist, but he's a tremendous clock-like timekeeper, hence his name, Mr. Afinque, which means tight rhythm. I would suggest anybody get any of his recordings.
Yeah, I wrote a lot of arrangements for him.
Fantastic. And he's still very active. Is he 90 years old now, I believe, or something like that?
No, I'm not sure. He's like Itier's age. I think they're in their mid-90s.
Wow.
Yeah. There's my buddy, Rafa.
Rafael Itier, who you just
Yeah.
mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the
we go back a
founder and
long
leader
way.
of the Gran Combo from Puerto Rico, great pianist.
Yeah. Great arranger.
Mhm.
Really good. And that's Denzel and myself in Hollywood.
Mhm.
He
Was
came
this
by
at
the show.
an after party for a concert you guys did, or?
No, this is in the dressing room of the Conga room in LA.
Okay.
They had come and Kareem had come that night and Bill Maher, quite a few people.
Wow, Bill Maher. Did they dance, or they were just there to dig the music?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Wow. So you never know who's a fan of the music, like
You never know.
this is for those of you viewing the Conga Room. I don't know if it still exists anymore, but the Conga Room was a great club in Los Angeles for salsa, or what we call salsa today. And that's great. It goes back to the Palladium, where many Hollywood stars would go to the Palladium Ballroom to check out
Yes.
the music. Next slide.
That is the show that Arturo Alfaro, Arturito, put together honoring the people from the Palladium. And that's Johnny, of course, and myself, Ray Santos. And next to Ray is Bobby Porcelli, great saxophone player, great lead alto man. And next to him is Sonny Bravo. And of course, next to Sonny is Reynaldo Jorge, great trombone.
Fantastic. And of course, Ray Santos, a legend in terms of the saxophone, but an incredible arranger.
Absolutely.
I think I would say that you're his successor in terms of keeping that style of arranging and the mastery of the art of arranging for the big band in an Afro-Cuban context alive and moving it.
Yeah. Well, he's certainly one of my mentors. Absolutely.
Next slide.
This is Pollo, a conga player for the Grand Combo,
Right.
and that's his wife and his son. And this is in Puerto Rico also. He's been there now, I think, 40 years.
Wow.
The Grand Combo, something like that. It's been there a long time.
Mhm.
Great guy, great family.
Next slide.
That's for Latin percussion.
Yeah.
That's my drum on the right.
So everybody knows that is a drum designed by Maestro Madera that's available through Latin Percussion. A beautiful design there.
Yeah, each one is different because they're hand painted. So they're not exactly, it's not like a baron. They put a piece of paper, then they cover it.
Right.
Each one of these is hand painted, so it's pretty good.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to open it up now to questions from the audience. First of all, let me see here. We have unos saludos, some people that want to say hi to you. The great Ronnie Puente, Tito Puente's son, and his beautiful wife, Joni, say hi. Angel Velasquez, Marco, I believe this says Marcos Justin from Panama,
Mhm.
Elvira Chiquillo from Barranquilla, and the great Arturo Gomez, the head of programming on radio station Cuvo, KUVO, one of the fantastic jazz stations in this country, and Faye Madera, your sister.
There we go. Yeah, she's looking in,
Great, fantastic.
making sure I don't make a mistake when I say something.
Okay, so we have some questions here from the audience. We have Marcos Justin that asks, what do you mean by playing with the arrangement? I think you were referring to Ubaldo Nieto when you talked about it.
In other words, when you sit down and play, you play oblivious to what's going on in the arrangement. You just play your usual patterns and switch to the bell when you're supposed to, instead of taking the band in your hand and holding the tempo and punching the band here and there and playing along with some of the phrases that the band is playing on the skin or on the bell and the skin. That's the difference.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. Jensen Ortiz asks, describe how you first met Tito Puente.
1959 at the Palladium Ballroom. That's not when I met. That's when I first saw them. I met Tito in 1964 when they were doing the album called De Mi Para Ti. And all these recordings, Tico had left now. The Roulette Records, Tico was recording at the Riverside Plaza Ballroom on the second floor over on 73rd and West End, right? Broadway and West End, and the Riverside Plaza Hotel.
Right.
So the stage was made out of wood, and they would put the rhythm on the stage because obviously wood is the best sound for the percussion and stuff, for the conga and the bongos and the timbales, which had real skins back then. And on the floor they would put the band. They left there and went to the A&R Studios on 112 West 48th Street on the 4th and then on the 7th floor. And Machito was recording at night. So my dad was one of the people that always get there a little early. And when I got there with him, I was about 13 or 14. They were finishing up the coro. Him and Tino and Santos and Willie Torres and Felo Brito were finishing the chorus. And Tito came out and said hello to my dad, and I got introduced to Tito, and I shook his hand there. That's really the first time I met him.
Now, we've talked about this in the past. You've told me, if I remember correctly, people don't realize how incredible a player Tito Puente was. If you saw him in the 90s, in the 80s, or whatever, that's one thing. But you had to see him as you saw him in his prime.
Yeah.
There was something that just was mind-boggling, unbelievable. And the licks that people play today that they think they've invented, Tito played them, years before and better. Tell us a little bit about, I remember that distinctly, you telling me that, because obviously I saw Tito, began seeing Tito in the 70s as a kid, but you saw him.
He was still pretty good then.
Yeah.
He was still pretty good, yeah. He was a guy that could get so many different sounds out of the timbales, And I remember one night in California, we were playing a tune called Corta el Bonche, and it was Bobby Porcelli's birthday. And before we played the tune, I think we may have been at the Hollywood Palladium or at Club Virginia's or something. I don't remember right now, but he turned around and told Bobby, this is for you. And he played a solo that was remarkable, And then he turned around and any questions? And he put the sticks down and he walked off the stage. And then Bobby Rodriguez looks at me. I look at Bobby, and Bobby says, "Man, he's haunted. That guy. He's really, he was a remarkable. Well, first of all, he's the greatest musician that we've had in this genre. He wrote so many arrangements, did so many things. He was just bigger than life. He was just a remarkable person, and you had to really see him, in the 60s or something, or anybody that's around that saw him in the 50s. But he was just an astounding guy, really, really talented.
And then, I mean, his vibes playing,
Yeah,
and it was just ridiculous as well.
yeah,
And occasionally, I got privy to see him play a little piano.
yeah, yeah.
So
He played, he liked Noto on the piano, so he played a little bit like Noto.
yeah.
Morales did, yeah.
And of course, he was a fantastic dancer as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Just a remarkable guy. One time at the Concourse Plaza, he came on the stage and he looks at us, you guys play all these solos and all the same crap. Watch this. He played a solo on the on la hembra, on the large timbal with his left hand only. Okay.
Wow.
Then he turned around. Okay, and he walked off. Yeah, he's a remarkable guy. One time he set up his drums backwards in a show. And the opening number, he plays Palo Rumbero, so he played the solo as if they were correct, like nothing.
Right, right.
Which was crazy. I mean, who can do that? It's really nuts.
And did you ever get to see him play saxophone, alto saxophone?
No, I never saw him play saxophone. Shep Pullman had stolen the sax because he got tired of hearing Tito play the saxophone. So Shep took it. And then he would come. Then when he came back to play alto, Shep Pullman was a baritone player. And Shep always had a good sound in the section, had a good buzz,
Right.
and stuff. So he would come in with the alto and play it, and it was Tito's alto. Tito didn't even realize it. So.
Right. Okay, we have some other great questions here. We have Rivera Ramsey. Was Ray Gonzalez the bongo player that played on the Conga Kings album with Giovanni, and was Ray Gonzalez Puerto Rican? I can answer this question because you're really talking about Joe Gonzalez, not Ray
Right.
Gonzalez. Joe Gonzalez was the bongo player on the Conga Kings album. My compatriot in the Mario Balsa Afro-Cuban Jazz Orchestra, he was the bongo player as well there. So I hope that answers your question, Rivera. All right, we have Curtis. Sorry, we have. All right, another question from Rivera Ramsey. In your opinion, who is the best vocalist that Tito Puente utilized?
That's hard. I would say that the best sounding vocalist that sounded perfect with the band was Santitos.
Santos Colon.
Yeah. And of course, Vicentico was great. Gilberto Monroy was good, but Santos really, it fit like a glove almost.
Right.
The sound.
Following up on that, riffing on that, who do you think was the best sonero improviser, vocal improviser out of those people that you mentioned, including Frankie Figueroa in that mix?
Well, I don't know if I could comment on that without getting nasty text, but I'm going to say that they all were. So there you go.
All right. Spoken like a true Democrat. Yeah. Or Republican. Let me see. Here we have Jose Gonzalez asks, what do you do to keep in musical shape?
What I do to keep in musical shape, meaning playing shape or writing?
Well, I guess you could answer both. Yeah.
Well, you play a little bit here and there, on a practice pad and stuff, and try to see if you remember all your patterns. And as far as writing music, I'm always writing something, lately a lot for Eddie Palmieri, so it keeps me busy.
Fantastic. Nicole Espinosa asks, what young percussionist are you a fan of? today? Like, for example, Pedrito Martinez.
Yeah, I think Pedrito's really great. Uh, of course, Giovanni's in his 40s now, but he's still young. I think he's the greatest one that I ever saw play the conga drum. It's just really remarkable what he does. You know, uh, I'm not too sure if I can name anybody else. There's a lot of good guys out there that play that I probably have seen and don't know their names.
Right.
But there's a lot of good guys out there playing right now.
Curtis Turney asks, why did the early Tito Puente recordings have a full trombone section, 4 trombones? Oh,
Why did they have them?
why? Well, it's saying here, why didn't any of the early Tito Puente recordings have a full trombone section?
Well, the early Tito Puente recordings were just a conjunto, 3 trumpets, you know? And once in a while, obviously, he would record with a big band and he would write his arrangements. Tito experimented a lot with a lot of voicings and like clarinet leads in the sax section and all those kind of things. But the original Tito Puente and also Tito Rodriguez were conjuntos. They were just 3 trumpets, or they will record with 4 trumpets and play with 3. And once in a while, when they had enough money, they would add the 4th trumpet. But as far as him recording with a large band, he used to do that whenever he felt like it. You know, when I started there, it was 3 trumpets and 3 saxes. Then it went to 4 trumpets and 3 saxes. That stuff.
And you've done a lot over the years, expanding those original arrangements, reharmonizing them, and blowing them up to a full 5 sax section, 4 trumpets and 4 trombones. When did that start happening? Did Tito ask you to do that, or did you start doing it just on your own and go to him? Hey, look, Tito, look what I did.
No, he had asked me when we did the last Birdland. I suggested him to do Tremendo Guaguancó and those things, and he said, well, go ahead and do it. So then I did it, you know, and things like that. He had asked me, and you know, he had already. Tito felt at a certain time that he was already like René did, like René Hernandez, you know, that they were already kind of out of touch and out of style. And I said, no, they're not. Neither of you are out of style. You just got to keep writing. That's who you are. That's your signature. That's your personality. That's your thought process, you know.
Right.
So,
fantastic. Bob Ramos asks, can you explain your background with melodic instruments and formal instrumental and arranging lessons?
Next question. My background with melodic instruments, probably a vibraphone first, and then a little bit of the piano. And I'm just kind of I close my eyes, write notes on a sheet of paper, and hope that they work.
Following up on that, are you using like programs like Pro Tools, Sibelius, and everything to write? Or you just old school, write with a pencil?
I know what it sounds like when I write it. I know what it's going to sound like. Yeah.
Wow. And then you hand it over to a copyist who prints it out for you.
Yeah.
Okay. And following up to what I just asked, what do you think of the music software used today on computers? By Bob Ramos, same.
Well, I'm not familiar with it because at first I don't have a computer and stuff. So I'm not very familiar with Sibelius or Staff Pad or those new things that are out, you know, that play the music back for you. You know, I'm like old style.
Right. It's amazing to me because I guess with dinosaurs, I'm the same way. You know, like, it's I would say from that there's something about taking your hand and moving the pencil on the paper that beside it's like there's some kind of really intense connection with the music
absolutely
on a visceral level, you know. So fantastic. Okay, we have a question here. Jensen Ortiz asks, do you have a favorite musical project that you've worked on? Yeah,
the last Mombo Legends record, which hasn't been released.
Wow.
a lot of singers, and had Eddie Palmieri came in and played. I did a special arrangement of Sabroso Encore, the feature Eddie.
Wow,
And
wow.
everybody's on it. Gilberto Santa Rosa, Tony Vega, Tito Nieves, Danny Rivera.
Sounds like a killer diller to me, man. Is that
Yeah,
coming out next year?
actually, I don't think it's ever coming out the way it's
Don't say
going.
that.
But I'm of course Jose Alberto's on it. If I'm leaving anyone out, please excuse me. But yeah, it's a pretty good record. Tito Rodriguez, Michael Bermudez, Frankie Vasquez, they're on it. It's a good record. Good
How many
record.
tunes? 10 tunes?
Yeah, 10.
Wow, incredible. Yeah, so, all right. So I think I asked this. What do you think is your? Well, Rivera Ramsey asked, what album do you think is the best album you've ever worked on? Yeah.
Wow, that's hard. There've been a lot of good ones, and there've been a lot of ones that haven't been as good. I don't know. I don't know the best one. I don't. I really. It's very hard for me to say because there's just too many.
Right. Okay. Well, this one that you just worked on sounds like it is, you know. So I mean,
Yeah. Well, Giovanni Hidalgo did a tribute album to Tito Puente, and that's been in the can. And I worked on that with him and Johnny and stuff, and we did that. So that should be coming out at some point.
is it a big band album?
Yeah, it was 3 saxes and 2 bones and 2 trumpets, the Tito Puente sound.
So it's like a mini big band, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Aj Avelino asked, "Do you have perfect pitch?"
No, I don't. Rene used to. My dad had it.
Yeah.
Mario had it. Mario Rivera, Mario Barza had it. Those guys had it. I don't.
Right, right. David Solis asks, well, this question is for me. Do people still play rumba in Central Park? The answer is yes.
Mhm.
Or the Bronx. The Bronx, the answer is no. The Bronx, if there is a rumba, it's an indoor thing, kind of a thing. But I must say, at the Bronx Music Heritage Center and the Bronx Music Hall, we've been starting to bring that back. We just had so stay tuned for more. There'll be more of that happening. Me and Jose grew up in a time period where basically, especially in the Bronx in the summertime at night, right now you would be hearing,
Yeah.
all night long, and nobody would call the cops and complain.
Right. That's true.
That ended with Rudolph Giuliani, unfortunately.
Well, there you go.
Okay, a question. So, and we have another question here. Can you explain what perfect pitch is? Elena Martinez wants to know that.
She wants to know that? Well,
Oh,
listen, there's a
sorry, she
book.
says somebody
There's a
else
book.
did. Don't throw her
There's
under
a
the
book
bus.
that will explain that. All you have to do is buy that book. Perfect pitch, where you could go like this with your ears and know what key and what note is being played. I used to do this to Rene. Like they would bang on a table and ask Rene, "What note is that?" And Rene would tell them. So
Right, right.
that's what that is.
Okay, we have here, let me see. Balsagar Rojas Vasquez. I can't believe I was able to read that. Did the Cardinal Hayes experience have any musical influence? And did you have any collaborations with other Hayes men?
Well, there's us.
Right, right.
I don't know anybody else.
And your brother Jerry, yeah.
My brother, right? My brother went there, right? I don't know of anybody else. I mean, there's a lot of guys around that I've seen or that are on Facebook and stuff. But as far as the music thing, I don't think so.
Right. Fantastic. Okay. And I must say, in terms of Cardinal Hayes, Mr. Ryan, who ran the concert band and the marching band, tremendous musician. He had a big influence on me, just his
Great.
work ethic, et cetera, and just
Yeah, wasn't Father Brennan there also? He had left already.
he was still there.
Yeah.
I guess you experienced Father McCormick, the Dean of Discipline?
Oh yeah, I sure did. I was never late though. So I made student council my last year. Go in front of everybody at the lunch line and take your food.
Well, you were heaven and I was hell because I I showed up basically late for every day of my senior year
Oh,
because of gigging, and I fell in
attention.
love with the person who became my wife later on, Evita. She went to a school close by in St. Pius, and I used to meet her, and I
Oh yeah,
forget
the
it. But
Pious
anyway,
girls.
people had a betting pool on me, you know.
I have a great story about that. You know, they used to get on. They were on the train, the number 4 train, coming into 149th Street, and there were these 2 girls I used to see all the time. But I was kind of shy, and I'm not going to talk to them. One night we're with a tall girl and a short girl. One night we're in San Francisco, like 15 years later, and this short girl comes up to me. I said, "Well, what can I do for you?" She said, "Were you at the Cardinal Hayes on the train?" So she is. I said, "Yeah." So that's to show you what kind of a small world it was. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, those are definitely New York stories, man.
Absolutely.
Here's somebody that you're familiar with, Faye Madera.
Oh boy.
Talk about some other project you work on, like Jingles, which is recording sessions for advertising. That's
I did a
fantastic.
lot of them from McCann Erickson. A lot of the arrangements, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Miller Beer, Schlitz, Coca-Cola. I don't know, a whole bunch of things like that. I did in the early '70s.
Have you compiled any of those jingles? Like, do you have them like
I
saved
have
at
them
all?
on a CD, but don't ask me where it is. I wouldn't even know.
Right.
What about movie soundtracks?
Or what about any movie soundtracks at all that you've worked on?
I wrote the entire Mambo Kings, the Tito Puente section on Mambo Kings. I wrote that at night. The makeup call was at 5. The recording stuff was done at the Capitol Studios, the old studio where Sinatra used to record.
Right,
It
the
was done
sessions that were
there.
done in California. That
Right,
album was the soundtrack half was done in New York because I participated on the New York
right.
sessions.
And
The
the
other half
Puente
was
one
in
was done in Hollywood.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was writing. I had a suite at the Valadon Hotel, and I was writing half of Willie Rosario's album, the Roaring '50s, and then working on the other side of the room on the Mambo King soundtrack. I lived off of Warner Brothers for like 10 days. They paid everything.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Okay, Jensen Ortiz asks, is there an artist you wanted to work with that you wish you had gotten the opportunity to have worked with, but you didn't?
Hmm. Well, I've been kind of lucky. I've worked with most of them. I'm not so sure. I think Miguelito Valdez would have been interesting
The great
because
vocalist from Cuba, yeah.
yeah, he was quite a singer, to say the least.
Yes, yes, and a percussionist too.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
he played all that stuff. Yeah. So I think
It's,
he would be one of the ones, obviously.
that's like a common thread that in terms of the history of Afro-Cuban based dance music through the years that the greatest singers always have some background in percussion. Santos Colon would play
Yeah.
timbales
Yeah.
when Tito would play vibes, or some I've seen him playing. I used to see him playing bongos sometimes, etc. Of course, I've seen Frankie Figueroa play some congas.
Yeah.
All of these great singers have been percussionists or have a background in percussion.
There you
Rivera
go.
Ramsey asks, "Will you ever have your own band one day?"
No. I
Well, I
might
would
do
say,
I'm considering doing an album now with my brother
right.
and stuff. Uh, we're still very much talking about that though. So we'll see.
Well, I would say you do in term the Mambo Legends Orchestra in a
Well, yeah,
sense,
that's true.
you know.
That's true.
Jorge Vasquez, who is doing our tech work here on the Starship Enterprise, asks, "Have you arranged for any other styles of music besides big band style mambo?"
Sure, I did a lot of stuff at Fania. I did a lot of Willie Rosario's hits. I did a whole bunch of things, different bands. Uh, so it hasn't only been that. I mean, my favorite sound is really 4 trumpets. They're written correctly. They sound so good. But my all-time favorite instrument is saxophones. That's really what I like.
So I would say, since you like the 4 trumpets, I would say then probably Sonora Ponceña is one of your favorite bands, I guess.
Yeah, and Willie Rosario and a lot of the stuff from a lot of the the conjunto things that Tito Rodriguez and Tito Puente did years ago, 4 trumpets,
Right.
you know. And
Now,
like
following
that.
up on Jorge's question, we talked about this in the before we went on camera. He had asked, "Have you ever done like Puerto Rican bomba?" And I'm gonna follow up with, "Have you done any Dominican merengue?"
No, no
Arrangements?
merengues. I haven't done one. I did do a bomba for the Funny All Stars. Dime que te pasa that Alberto Santiago sang, and Roberto Roena played the quinto one. I
Wow.
did do that.
What album is that on?
I have
For
no
our
idea.
viewers. That's the name of the album. I have no idea. You know.
That's it. I
Robert,
did it
Rob,
because
Robert,
Pacheco asked me to do it.
excuse me. I'm
I
sorry.
did it because Pacheco asked me to do it. That's
Oh,
it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Talking about Pacheco, what did you think of him as a musician? A lot of people just see him, as just the guy
You know, he
in front
was
of
a
the funny.
saxophone. He played saxophone, as we know,
Mhm.
and stuff. And wasn't really a great saxophone player, but he played it, you know. And then, of course, then he played the wooden flute, which I thought he was spectacular on. He was a very creative, amazing guy also that that took everything by storm. You know the story of Guido de Macorina. Nobody would play it because it was a double meaning song, and Rafael Font would play it. It said, "Give it to me, I'll play it." And he was at a radio station in New Jersey, and he played it. It became a hit, and they sold 100,000 copies. You know,
Wow.
an amazing story. Johnny was really a talented guy, knew what he wanted, and good boss to work for.
Fantastic. Robert Espiet Ayala asks, are royalties for musicians enough to sustain you?
No,
Explain to the viewers what royalties are, in case some of them don't know what that is.
well, when you record, if you broadcast music, BMI or ASCAP, American Society of Composers or Arrangers, and I forgot what the P stands for, but
Producers.
producers, right? And then they are supposed to track everything that you play on, so that you can get a royalty payment for a reuse, or like in a commercial, reuse meaning that it's played over and over again. So you're supposed to get a payment for that. And in the wonderful world, our genre of music, the wonderful world that we're in, I don't think any of us got very much money from the reuse or the replaying of songs on the radio over and over, that is what a royalty payment is, you know. It's sort of like the I Love Lucy TV show. There were no royalty agreements in Hollywood. So all the people that worked on those shows, obviously they're all gone now. But for all the years that Lucy was on television, nobody got a royalty payment. That's the kind of thing we're talking about.
Curtis Turney asks, since leaving Boys Harbor, or the unfortunate shutdown of Boys and Girls Harbor, which was a haven for young musicians to learn the secrets of Afro-Cuban, Afro-Dominican music, Afro-Puerto Rican music in general, do you still teach?
No, I don't. I don't do it. I was there a long time. So there's a lot of guys that are doing it now, and we can learn from them.
One question I wanted to ask you, did you ever personally interact with the legendary Morris Levy, the godfather of the
No.
music business?
No, I never did. No. He had the sliding walls in his office, and all that for people to hide and all this kind of stuff. So no, I didn't. I never did. That's probably why we're still alive today.
So,
Hold on, one last question. I have to ask you this, Jose. What is your favorite? Well, we know what your favorite Machito album is, which is Kenya, and you worked in some capacity with Tito Rodriguez, right, as an arranger.
I played the show. I played the shows.
Okay, what is your favorite Tito Rodriguez album?
Believe it or not, my favorite Tito Rodriguez album is at the Palladium. The band is really good.
The Live at the Palladium.
Burt Collins and Joe Shepley and Joe DeMare and Harold Whitbright, the trumpets, and Jerry Sanfino and those guys. And It's really, the band is really good.
Talking
Really
about
good.
Harold Waitwhite, did he did some arranging for Tito Rodriguez and Billy
Oh, yeah.
Fox? Billy Fox asked, "Did you show him how to arrange in clave, or did he ask questions, or etc.?"
Harold?
Yeah,
No, no, Harold. Harold was way older than me,
right.
you know. So no,
You never got to interact with him, yeah.
no, no, never did, never
Right.
did. Bert Collins and Joe Shepley, yeah, they were on all the jingles, you know,
And
but they
what
were part
about
of.
and what's your favorite Tito Puente album?
Well, I guess I think Carnival in Harlem is great. Back done in 1966, and of course Dance Mania. The other ones are good too, and some of them aren't so good. But listen, you can't. You do 100 and some odd albums, you can't, hit it off great on every one. It's very hard.
I'm still amazed that in that heyday in the 70s, the way you guys were rocking and rolling, playing basically every day, like sometimes 2 and 3 gigs a day, and then getting up to do a recording session. I don't even know how you made any quality albums because, I
Yeah,
mean, just, I mean, where did the, find the time to even write? And
that's very true. That's very
but,
true.
but thank God for copyists, you know? So.
You're not kidding.
Well,
Well, Maestro Madera, it's been a pleasure, a privilege, and an honor having you here tonight. All of you who are watching this, if you came in late or want to view this again, this is on a constant loop at the Bronx Music Heritage Center uh, Facebook page, so you can see this at your leisure, and review it again. My name is Bobby Sanabria. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'd like to personally thank everyone for all your personal condolences that many have you have given me personally, privately, on the passing of my beautiful mother, Juanita Sanabria, who just passed away this past Monday. Thank you from the bottom of my heart and the entire Sanabria family, and Elena Martinez as well, who's going to close off now by giving you some words of wisdom.
There we go.
well, thank you. What a great way to start off the Bronx's Salsa Fest with a great interview with Jose Madera. We want to thank you so much for taking part in our percussion discussion tonight. And I suggest Jose, Bobby, everyone who was watching today, with such a really interactive Facebook comment section. You got after this, go back. There's a lot of friends and familia who are saying comments and asking questions in the Facebook. Go check that out. You're going to see a lot of people there. And I want to thank all of you for joining in with us. We're going to have more events for the Bronx's Salsa Fest month. As I mentioned, we have Oreste Abrantes, who is an alumni of Boys Harbor and the Harbor. He'll be playing with his group Afinque at our plaza, at our outdoor plaza at 163rd Street in Washington in September. And also our next percussion discussion next month is Ronnie Puente. So we're excited for these upcoming shows. Please come back to our Facebook page for that. Keep on our Facebook page to check out what we're doing. And we also want to thank Jorge Vasquez for making sure everything gets posted virtually and all the stuff, all the technical things work. So thank you so much. And everyone, have a great night.
And I'd like to say to everyone, please remember, if you haven't yet done so, get your vaccine so you can be clean and mean on the scene. And please, if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for your friends and your family, and keep wearing that mask. August 25th, next Wednesday, I will be at Grant's Tomb in Riverside Park on the east side with my multi-Grammy nominated Multiverse Big Band, as we will give tribute to both my recently deceased mother, Juanita Sanabria, and my father, Jose Sanabria, who is no longer with us, with a program of Puerto Rican music, but with new arrangements, bringing the music into the 21st century. It's at 7 p.m., sponsored by Jazzmobile, and it is free. For the entire team here at the Bronx Music Heritage Center, thank you so much. May your lives always be en clave with mucho H. And to the great maestro, Jose Madera, thank you so much. Up Hayes and all of its loyal men.
There we go.